Welcome to Conversations with Ann Elizabeth, the podcast inspired by my book, I'm a Registered Dietitian, Now What?, where I have the absolute joy to sit back, relax, and have a conversation about nutrition with a variety of people who share their personal story of passion and purpose, especially registered dietitians. I had the joy today to converse with a fellow colleague, a friend, and a registered dietitian, Kristyn Kamrath, who also happens to have celiac disease. I want to share with you a little background information about my guest today. Kristyn and I go way back to the early 2000s when we were both newer registered dietitians. Kristyn started with Creighton University Medical Center as a bariatric dietitian while I was working as a clinical dietitian. She has a phenomenal story about moving from Nebraska to Florida for her internship, working in Florida, and navigating the registered dietitian professional landscape in a really unique way. So please kick back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with registered dietitian Kristyn Kamrath. Just to kind of start off the conversation, I wanted you to kind of tell me your story of how you got interested in nutrition. What was the thing that kind of pulled you into this wonderful profession that we're in?
Well, that is an excellent question because in high school, I fought back and forth with internally what I was going to do with my life. Mm-hmm. And I had, maybe I'll be a doctor or maybe a nurse, whatever, maybe a lawyer. And when I was a senior and we took the ACT, my highest composite came back was science. And out of all four,
did that surprise
English,
you?
Math, whatever. Yeah.
It did. Yeah. You didn't think science was
No,
your...
and I didn't like science. I somehow got in my head that I wasn't good at science and I didn't like it. So lo and behold, I decided to major in communications.
In college. So where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Fullerton, Nebraska, a small town of about 1,400 people.
Okay.
And I got a Regent Scholarship to UNL.
I didn't know that.
Cool.
Smarty pants.
And I got the honors program scholarship and everything. So I was very blessed to go to school for free.
That's nice.
Well, my parents were very happy.
They were very ecstatic. But obviously you put a lot of hard work into achieving that.
I always felt school came pretty easy for me.
Okay.
Just because I have an innate curiosity about everything. If I don't know about it, I want to learn about it.
You're going to learn about it.
So, and I'm still that way today, which is
why you're proactive with your job and life. And
if I'm going to speak about something or be asked about something, I want to know everything I can about it so I can be reliable. I can be a reliable source. So I get to college and I'm in communications, taking my classes. My end goal was really to be a TV anchor, news anchor. I want to be a journalist.
And you would be fantastic at that. Do you still want to do that?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
You've completely moved on from that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
But I always thought I was pretty good at presenting and public speaking, and I always kind of enjoyed that. I was dork, like that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I got into my classes, and they were all based on books that were written by the chair of the department.
Of UNL.
The chair of the communications department.
Really?
And they seemed to me to be kind of one big, long opinion. And I didn't like that. And that's when the aha moment came. Well, I like science because there's logic and reasoning behind it. Like there's really a concrete answer.
Sure.
So I'm still fighting with that dilemma, and my first semester, my sophomore year, I decided to take Nutrition 101 or whatever number it was. Mm-hmm. Because I thought, it'll count for me as a science, and it'll be an easy science.
And you need how many sciences in the communications? Like one
nothing.
or two? Yeah.
And so to boot, all of the people in my communications classes were like the football players who didn't show up. And they were all communications majors. And from what I heard from other students was that it was the easiest major on campus, so that's why football players did it.
Wow. And you had no clue about any of that when you were starting to do that program?
Our guidance counselor in high school was probably not very
helpful.
Right.
It's understandable. I had that same situation.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I'm about 2 weeks into this nutrition class, and I'm getting there early, and I'm really excited about it. I'm like, this stuff's really cool. I'm reading ahead in the textbook. Like, this stuff's awesome. And So Dr. Bev Benish was the instructor at the time, and I went up to her after class, and she's a very motherly person. I don't know if you've probably never met her, but
I have not.
She's an amazing lady.
She's a nourisher.
She is a mother. Like, she's a very sweet lady. And I went up and talked to her, and I said, I think this is what I want to do. And she stopped what she was doing and got me all the paperwork, and she signed on. She agreed to be my advisor at that point.
Oh, wow.
And so that's really where my journey into being a dietitian began. And I can almost pinpoint the day. It was right before Halloween.
You need to tell me that story, because I kind of had the same similar kind of awakening when I took a 101 class. Yeah. So I would love to hear your story.
So at that point, I was all in. My next semester and over the summer, I went gangbusters, taking Bio 101, chemistry, and all of that stuff. I took biology and chemistry in the same semester with both labs, and that...
Did you really?
That was stressful.
That is stressful.
But I got through it, and I ended up graduating in 4.5 years. So it only put me back one semester.
Bad. Yeah, that's not
bad. That was awesome. So from there, I could either, when I graduated in December of 2000, I could have either waited until the next round of internships when there were more internships available to apply for, or there was the Iowa State internship that was available that started, I think, maybe in February.
Yes.
And the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida. And I thought, well, I might as well apply this round. If I don't get into Mayo Clinic, then I'll just... So I decided that that's the only one I was going to apply to. I was going to apply to the Mayo Clinic. They took 3 people. Linda...
They only took 3 people?
They only took 3 people. But it was at an off time, so they probably didn't have many applicants. But by the grace of God, I got chosen.
You're like, thank goodness.
All right, we're moving to Jacksonville, Florida. Here we go.
Okay, I'm going to stop you for 1 second. I want to go back to the day that you said that you had that aha moment right before Halloween. So before we'll continue and go back to when you take the internship, and I want you to tell me about that day before Halloween that you really felt warm and fuzzy with nutrition.
I called my mother, to be honest. I called my mother, and my dad was working outside at the time. And so I was telling her, oh my gosh, I think I found what I really want to do. I want to change my major. I want to do something different. And my dad's really been my kind of academic counselor and advisor.
Sure.
And life coach, more so than my
guru.
mom.
Your adult guru.
So my mom was just like, yeah, okay. Well, call Dad, or I'll have Dad call you when he gets back in. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. And I remember talking, I still feel like I'm just chatting about it today, because I remember talking to him and saying, oh, this is what I want to do. I think it's going to be awesome. And I spilled the whole spiel of what a dietitian could do and all these things. And I thought this would be awesome. And he was very supportive. And he was like, all right,
he's on board.
Do what you got to do. Write the checks you have to write, which I really didn't have to write it.
Sure. No.
He was all on board and excited about it. My sister, kind of going back a little bit, my sister is 4 years older than me. So growing up in high school, I was always called Stephanie. I was called her name.
Oh, really?
By teachers, because it was a very small school.
Sure.
So they would,
and you guys look very similar, don't you?
We do. Yes. So they would always slip and call me by her name. Or I would just be, oh, you're Stephanie's little sister.
Yes.
So I hated that. And my sister went to Creighton University, and she became a nurse, and actually now she's going to get her doctorate in nursing. So
is she? Oh.
If she hadn't done that, I would have probably gone into nursing from the get-go.
Yeah.
But I'm like, there's no way I'm following her. There's no way I'm following in her footsteps, because I'm my own person. So all of those factors really led into the decision to be a dietitian.
So you have, your sister is in healthcare. What do your parents do then? Are they in healthcare too?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
My father was the county executive director for the ASCS office in Nance County for 40 years.
Okay.
That's all I know about it.
That's all you know. That's what the title.
Something about farming and acres and stuff. My mother worked for what used to be Northwestern Bell Telephone Company.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And right as cell phones were starting to hit the market,
That's when she kind of...
Well, they were offering a buyout for people who were eligible for retirement.
Oh, okay.
And this was, I think, only maybe 1990 at the time. She wasn't really old.
No.
So she took a buyout and retired, and then she went on to work for the Census Bureau after that.
Oh.
And she started as a field rep taking surveys, and she got up into very high ranks, and people still call her, even though she hasn't worked for them for about 3 years.
Huh.
So that was really her bread and butter, was people and going out and talking to people. Mm-hmm. And then my dad went to work for Principal Financial Group, kind of on a different level. So
parents weren't in healthcare, but that sister competition did not lead you down the path of being a nurse.
Correct.
Which is very interesting. Because I think I thought about that too when I was like, I think I want to go into the medical field somewhere. And I thought nursing, because it's so mapped out and it's so planned.
Absolutely.
And it's perfect. Whereas dietetics is a little bit different.
It is.
When it comes to that
But what's
education.
funny is I think there are a lot of parallels between the professions, and we can talk about that later. But I see the field of dietetics kind of going down that same evolution that nursing has gone down, which is very cool.
Hopefully we can start getting like those doctorate programs that are more applied to the actual place where you work.
Absolutely.
And what you're working in. So let's go back to Jacksonville, Florida. You got one of 3 internships with the Mayo Clinic there.
Yes.
And you were shocked.
I was shocked. It was surreal. I remember flying down and looking for an apartment.
How was that? was it really intimidating to kind of...
No. My parents actually wanted to come with me, and I said no.
Oh, good for you.
Doing this myself. I drove myself down there when it was time to go. And I got to the first day of my internship, and I'll never forget this. The internship director, her name was Nell. She said, "Well, we didn't hear anything from you. I'm glad that you showed up. We were worried." And
to confirm that you were coming?
Yeah, they sent everything out. I mean,
and you got it all.
They sent all the directions on what to do and where to show up your first day. And I was like, well, I
got this, so I'm here.
It's pretty much cut and dry. I mean, I'm self-sufficient. So I don't know. That must not have been their experience with other interns.
Who knows? We've been through some interns together that we know that it can be iffy.
Yes, yes. So the other 2 in my class were one was a girl that actually worked at that hospital as a diet tech.
Oh, okay.
And she was already familiar with everything.
She knew everything.
And then the other was from she was from North Carolina. What's the one that has the Pirates as their East Carolina University?
Okay.
And so we were kind of the 3 amigos.
You were small. That's a small unit of interns. So did you do a lot of things, almost everything together?
Yes.
Well,
yes. And we had different weeks with different people, but my experience there was not the best, because there had always been a rumor that the clinical staff would usually single one person out to be kind of the black sheep, and that turned out to be me.
That's horrible. How long was your internship?
It was 6 months, so it was short.
So
I knew that's what I wanted to do, was get in and get out.
Okay.
But I had never worked in a hospital other than in the kitchen, so I hadn't been up on the floors. I hadn't seen a chart, and the other intern that had worked there before, already had all of that knowledge.
She
knew where to find
golden.
things. Yeah, so she was golden, and I don't know why, what was the discerning factor between me and the one from ECU, but I don't know.
Why did you stick out?
I don't know, but they had told me that I was going to need to take an extra week off and study and learn more. And I don't really feel that way at all. It was just weird, but it was really gave me a good introduction into the professional world, how things can be kind of ugly. So I
just with coworkers
took that
and
away.
situations.
Yep.
So were you all 6 months at that hospital then?
We did do some community rotations out and about.
Sure. So you were basically there.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's intense for having that long of a clinical. Was it all pretty much a clinical experience then?
It was
while you were
very
there?
heavily weighted that way.
Very heavily weighted.
There was some. There was a rotation at WIC. There was a rotation in home care.
Did you do food service then?
Food service. Yep. I did food service.
So the basics.
So the basics,
yeah.
But mostly clinical. And that was, I remember September 11th, 2001, I was in my home care rotation when the Twin Towers fell. And my mom was on an airplane, like on the tarmac in Omaha, ready to fly out for one of her Census Bureau jobs.
Uh-huh.
And I remember getting back to my apartment, and she had always sent me her flight itineraries. I'm like, what are you sending me these for? And I logged on to my email, and I saw that she was scheduled to be on a plane. So I called her right away, and she was crying and driving home. They had taxied out to the runway and were getting ready to take off. And she said they stopped and they sat on the tarmac for a while. Mm-hmm. And then they eventually took them back to the terminal to deplane, and they canceled all the flights. So
thank goodness.
Yeah,
a stressful time. And that's funny. You're in your internship, and then there's that significant event too that happens. So you don't ever forget that time in your life.
Yes.
So kind of you said that your intern experience wasn't the best or the greatest experience. Did you did you feel like you maintained your passion like you had back in college when you were in your intern? So that's good. So that didn't defer you from?
Not at all.
You were like, I'm going to weather this and I'm going to get through it. And
I think it really gave me, being at the Mayo Clinic really gave me some clinical confidence to go into my first job. They do things, back then anyway, they were very particular. They had a nutrition support team that I got to spend 2 weeks with.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
The dietitians there were very, very much revered and
held to a good regard.
And they were used as a resource. And what I didn't know at that point in time is that they were light years ahead of
where
anywhere
that you've been
that I've been since has been
with nutrition support or just everything kind of
recognizing the dietitian as a clinical professional versus a person who circles menus and
gets your toast that wasn't on the tray.
I worked in a job once where one of the dietitians that was training me said, we're not peas and carrots dietitians, which I don't really know what that means, but I thought that was kind of funny.
I'm going to think of that now.
Not what peas and carrots
dietitian are you? Are you a peas and carrots dietitian?
Or food police. That's another good one.
We are. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So their clinical team, just thinking about that, they were pretty much probably almost at the same level as physicians were when it came to the care.
Very close. And I think it was being a teaching institution helps as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So since you did a lot of clinicals, focus on that. Is that kind of what you decided to do in your first job, or how did the first job out of your internship go for you? What was kind of your feelings getting out of the internship and the extra studying you needed to do, obviously, to take your test? But where did the internship lead you into searching for your first job?
I knew I wanted to stay in Florida because it's Florida. Yeah, and it's awesome. And it was 10 minutes from the beach. So
that would be hard, especially coming from Nebraska. Yeah.
It was awesome. And so I knew I wanted to stay there. There were 2 other internship programs in Jacksonville at that time. So jobs were pretty short.
Gotcha.
And I applied. And the one I finally found was actually a long-term care skilled nursing facility in St. Augustine, which is about 40 miles south of Jacksonville.
Okay.
And beautiful town. It's got so much history. It was actually the very first settled town in the United States back in the 1500s by the Spanish.
That.
Yes.
Wow.
So
you taught me a little history lesson
equally
today.
as beautiful. They also have a haunted lighthouse there, which I have never been to.
Have you gone?
I
No.
have not. I did not go, but it would have been awesome.
Yeah.
So I was there they hired me actually before I was registered.
Okay, so before you had your test.
Right.
Yes.
And it was a very interesting experience. I was in charge of the dietary department and then also the clinical nutrition care of the residents. coming out of that short of an internship, I don't feel I was prepared for management at all. And I just took it out of necessity, but
And
I
you wanted
really
to stay there, and you weren't looking at moving, so.
Right. And so that's kind of how it happened. But it did teach me some really good things I took away from. I got very close with a lot of the people in the therapy department, and I had really never talked to a physical therapist or an occupational therapist before. And so I spent a lot of time down there seeing what they did, because, as you know, skilled nursing facility, their acuity of their patients for nutrition isn't that high.
No, and it's all pretty, it's pretty consistent.
Right. So it was neat to see what kinds of things they do, and met some great people. I think the speech therapists and we clicked pretty well too. And then I was there, maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
And I found a PRN job open at one of the other hospitals in Jacksonville. So I was getting kind of tired of driving. I thought,
that's
for
a
the
drive.
birds.
Yeah.
One of the good things I did take away, or one of the things that happened to me when I was driving home one night from St. Augustine, it was the day of a shuttle launch down at Cape Canaveral.
Oh, yeah.
And I could see it the whole way home in my rearview mirror. I could see the shuttle and the smoke, and it was so cool.
When you were driving.
So cool.
Well, that was it. See, you have some great memories from being
I do. And so this hospital that I got on PRN for was not a teaching facility, but it was more a community hospital type. It was on the river, not for profit. I mean, all about the patient. It was awesome.
Great facility.
It was awesome. And I signed on to work maternity leave for one of the dietitians.
Okay.
And it was 3 months, and I had been talking with this man in Omaha who worked for Sodexo, kind of intermittently, about a position that they were creating in Omaha at Creighton University Medical Center for bariatric surgery. And so finally... So
how'd you get involved with Sodexo? Because Sodexo is a contract company.
Yes.
And we know applied. They are around food. I mean, like Sodexo is, food service at different locations, like colleges, hospitals, that kind of stuff. I
had applied for a job when I was initially looking. There was a job posted in Omaha. And so it was either stay in Florida, and if there's nothing in Florida, I'm getting a little bit worried. I started looking back in Nebraska. Okay. So I applied on the Sodexo website and got a call, and I don't remember what the initial... I don't really remember now what the initial job was for that was posted. I think it was maybe a PRN position, and I told the gentleman I really wasn't interested in that. If I was going to move back. Have that. Yeah. If I was going to move
Florida,
back.
Nebraska, I don't know.
So he had talked to me about a surgeon there that really wanted a dietitian and wanted to get a program going for bariatric surgery. And this was back before it was really known about. It wasn't.
So this was like
2003 or 4. 3 or 4. Okay. And so when that job came to fruition, it kind of coincided with the maternity leave ending of that other person. So I packed up and
great timing.
Moved back home, and it was November, and my parents had come down this time to help me move, and we were driving somewhere through Iowa, and I saw snow on the ground. And I lost it. I started
You're like,
crying,
what did I do?
Sobbing.
Because
I just left the beach. What am I doing?
Because you were right down there for a total of 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah, so enough to become attached and like, this could be my lifestyle.
And when I was down there, I missed the seasons. Sure. I did. I missed the seasons and the change.
But Midwesterners miss the seasons.
They had big, what they called palmetto bugs, which I didn't like down there, and they are essentially giant cockroaches, but they're not cockroaches, they told me.
They just look like
they
that.
Look gross.
Yeah.
And so
that was you put that down on the list.
Yeah, my pros and cons but
trying to talk yourself into moving back to Nebraska.
So this job with bariatric surgery, I really came in not knowing.
I said, did you know anything about bariatric surgery at the time? I mean, since you are an inquisitive person, I mean, I'm wondering if you read about it, or it was probably starting to become very on the forefront of weight loss surgery.
Well, in our profession at that time, I feel like when I told dietitians what my new job was going to be, I kind of felt ashamed. Like, oh, you're selling out.
Yes.
You're going to weight loss surgery. Because it really wasn't as accepted.
Yes.
Back then.
It was kind of like, oh, these patients are at this last resort.
And it was thought of as a quick fix. And I was trying to explain, no, it's really not, because it's a full program with everybody involved. And so I went through that for a couple years.
Isn't it amazing how the judgment from dietitians can be just as judgy as other people when it comes to health and wellness and when you think about now looking back on bariatric, I mean, how awesome that they wanted a dietitian to be involved. Yeah, that's great. That person was being proactive to employ a dietitian. So that was
you. They had a whole program, which was amazing. And it was really a matter of, we know we need a dietitian. We don't really know
what we're going to do with them.
We just want you to educate them. And so back then, they had kind of a brief outline of a diet. It was a photocopy of a photocopy that they were giving to patients.
Trickled down from somewhere.
And so I decided to really, throw myself in and okay, well, why do we need to do low sugar liquids? Why do we need to do this? And so I really started digging into like PubMed and research articles about these surgeries and about the anatomical changes that were happening. And
pre and post surgery.
Pre and post. And I pulled up I had a nice graphic from one of the textbooks I had in college. And it was a diagram of the entire GI tract and where certain things were absorbed.
Oh.
And so I used that to start formulating not only the diet restrictions, but also the micronutrient supplement, the micronutrient supplement kind of routine that we would see, right? So I really created everything in my mind from the ground up, because there were no other dietitians doing this. So I couldn't go out to the academy and say, hey, I need to see what other people have done, reinvent the wheel. And nope, I created everything from the ground up, which was very cool. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Some of the handouts that I have seen recently are very close.
I was going to say, have you gotten any yours published, or have you done anything with those? Like,
no.
But you're seeing kind of some things that you had.
But it's very similar recommendations is what I've seen over the years from different hospitals and different surgeons using very similar recommendations. So it was just validation for me that, I was on the right track.
You were, yeah, absolutely.
I was recommending the correct things.
And that's a pretty intense thing to have to kind of create on your own after being a dietitian for only a couple of years, and it's very specialized, and there wasn't the support. So you were on the right track.
And it was nice being in that environment too, because it was very clinical. So I would read op notes from maybe patients who had gone to another surgeon and had problems and came in. So I was getting to know the lingo, so to speak, and I would be able to visualize exactly how the connections were made and where, and 50 centimeters from the ileocecal valve, or just that things like
anatomy and phys that you studied, and it was all kind of making sense coming together.
Yeah. And I got to learn a lot about medical management as well. So post-op protocols, even with medications, and physical therapy and activity and that kind of thing. So it kind of gave me a little bit of a taste of what being a doctor would be like.
That's awesome.
It's like, this is kind of cool, but I'm glad I didn't do that.
Do you feel like when you did work in that program that you were very much revered as the nutrition expert? You know how we talked about the clinical team in Jacksonville were very revered. How did you feel about your role as the dietitian in that bariatric surgery team?
I think they were very supportive of me. I think my attention I guess that's the word I'm thinking of, my my intention was to learn as much as I could about medical management, when in reality, I was dealing with a lot of the behavioral and psychological aspects. So to me, that was more, actually seeing the patients and talking to them one-on-one was more like just a part of the job I didn't really care about as much. I mean, I don't.
You cared about the patients.
But I was really interested in the clinical management and the surgical interventions. So, after time went on, it's very taxing to hear some of the patients' stories and how, the question that the surgeon would ask was like, how did you come to be this weight? And boy, that was a hard question for a lot of them to
open-ended.
Yeah, like what happened? Give me your history.
3 hours later.
And I mean, patients would often cry.
Sure.
I must have developed a pretty good rapport with most of them because they would tell me things that they wouldn't tell Dr. Sudan. So then I would have to go back to Dr. Sudan and say, hey. Did you know X, Y, and Z? So I think it was good they felt comfortable enough with me to share those things. I think the team actually looked at me more as like, we don't care about the diet. We're surgeons. So Kristyn, deal with the diet. And they gave me a lot of freedom and autonomy around that, which is nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you were the nutrition expert.
That's why I'm there.
That's kind of why they took a step back. They did the surgery, and then they let you take care of the patient with the food.
Yeah, they were very good about it.
That's good. That's good. And you think about that, being over 10 years ago, that's kind of unheard of, I feel.
Yeah, it's sad that program is not around anymore.
I was going to ask if that program is around anymore. No, it's not.
It's not around. The last surgeon that was there left, I think, in 2008, I believe. He moved out to Duke University with his wife, and he is in charge of, last I knew, he was in charge of their residency program out there. So
was that Dr. Sudan? Or was
yes, Dr. Sudan.
Dr. Sudan did. Okay. Yeah. I kind of wondered if he was still around or...
Nope.
So with him, the program left.
Right.
And then did you stay with the program until then, or did you?
No, I had actually left before that. I think about a year in, I started looking at jobs back in Florida because I was missing Florida. And then I kind of got to a place, we got busy, and I really was enjoying it and going with the flow, because I think I was there about a total of 3.5 years.
Okay.
And when Dr. Jacobs left, things died down for me because I was responsible for both surgeons, and so I had a lot more free time. So I found myself doing things like I would help the nurse with lab letters. So their patients, the patients' labs would come back, and we'd write letters to them, informing them what their values were and what to do about it, and with prescriptions for vitamins or whatever. And then I also helped with insurance certifications, which was really cool to get to see what's all involved in that. And how to meet the requirements for surgery and what documentation needs to happen. And I think that information has been just valuable to me in my personal life, because I'm a kid. I don't know what's insurance.
Yeah. And how does that work again?
How does it work? And what does reimbursement mean? And
as a dietitian, we don't.
Right.
There's not enough information about that at all.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So around that time, I had found kind of an out with a long-term care facility in Omaha. And why I went back to long-term care, I don't know.
Back to long-term care, but it was not in Florida.
And that was not my passion. But again, I always like to look back and recognize what I took away from that place, whether it was the relationships or the experience. And this particular position was a lot. There were a lot of ventilated patients, and traumatic brain injury or those kinds of things.
Sure.
And then there was also a pediatric unit. And
with the same kind of injuries.
Yeah, some were, but some also maybe just had a trach. Some maybe had some birth defects or some. And that was my favorite part about the job, was the pediatrics. It was awesome, and I was terrified because I'd never done pediatrics before. And it's really just a different language. It's not harder.
Different.
No.
Just a different, I like that. It's a different language.
It's just a different language.
Just little people.
And the same with NICU. I've done NICU too, and that's just a different language too. Mm-hmm. It's all very different, and we shouldn't be afraid of it.
But we are.
Dietitians
are, I think.
And at that position, I think that was more soul food for me. Okay. Because I got to see these children that either they were victims of child abuse or once it was known that they had a birth defect, the parents were gone.
Oh, mm-hmm. Wow.
And this is where they lived. I mean, this was
their home.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And there were two ladies that were the activities director or activities people, and they would do story time or little fun games with them twice a day. And so I'd always find myself being on the floor at those times, so I could go in and hit the balloon with them or do stuff. So those are my soul food days.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool, and I don't think I realized that's what it was at that point.
You probably probably later,
mm-hmm.
you just kind of after the fact, you're like, wow, that was a really important mm-hmm. part of that step in my dietitian path.
It was. I feel like every step has been there for a purpose. When you look at my resume, you think, gosh, you've had a lot of jobs. But I revere, one, if not many parts about each of those jobs mm-hmm. because they have made me into the professional that I am today.
That you are right now.
So I was there probably 9 months. I wasn't there very long.
Okay.
And because I knew in my heart it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I see this job posting for LMNT. Like, what is LMNT? They want a dietitian to go in the home and provide enteral education for patients who have to be on tube feeding.
Okay.
And I'm like, what? And again, here's the next job that we don't really know what we need you for, but we know we need you.
I was going to say, this sounds like a job that, again, mm-hmm. they know we need a dietitian, but we don't know exactly what we need you for. Yes. So
I feel like those have been most of my jobs.
You're a good navigator. You're a good pioneer when it comes to things. Yes.
I do. I feel like I'm
you're like the
cutting down some trees. So this was intriguing to me. It was very cool. It was a new program that they had rolled out, and the intent was for the dietitian to go out and introduce this program to what they called accounts, but it was basically going and speaking to oncologists and head and neck surgeons and anyone who would order a tube feeding for a mm-hmm. patient in the home. And so that was the first part. You build the program, and then you get the patients and you take care of them. And I learned so much. I mean, this education, they sent us for 2 weeks down into Birmingham, Alabama, because this mm-hmm. is where a dietitian built this company, this home care company. That's all they did. That's all they did was enteral nutrition in the home. And they did all of the training and instruction on how to take care of the site, how to keep it clean, how to actually administer the tube feeding. Mm-hmm. And that's something that in my history, nurses were always the ones that did that. And it was the coolest thing that I got to learn how to do all of that.
You got to do it.
And it was.
Is there a lot of people that go home on tube feedings?
More than you would think.
More than you think.
And there is a big. These patients fall through the cracks, every single one of them, because what I found is that the oncologist or the head and neck surgeon will order the peg to be placed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They go into a surgery center and they get that done and they get sent home. Nobody tells them what to do with it. Nobody tells them anything about it. And then these surgeons, these doctors don't want to manage the tube feeding because they don't know anything about it. And so they're usually pointing fingers at each other, saying, you manage it, no, you manage it. So which I thought this program was just brilliant, because then that's where I would insert myself. I would say, hey, I just need somebody to sign it. Mm-hmm. I'll do all of it. I just need
just sign off on it.
You tell me, what if you're okay with it, then I'll take care of it. I got it. So it was a very good theoretical program. It just wasn't run. It wasn't run very well in Omaha. It was run very well at.
Is this a national company?
Yes,
it is. So it's all over.
And it just kind of fell apart. And now there are so many laws with Medicare about home care companies that I had no idea. That was, again, education on insurance is what I took away from that.
I would have never guessed.
Yeah, it's just a whole different world.
So that probably kind of held you back from being able to do your job.
It did, and there was such a pressure on the sales piece of it.
Oh, gotcha.
To go out.
So you were they're like, go out to the doctor's offices and sell our program.
Right.
But then you would want to really execute the program.
Yes.
And you never really got that opportunity.
That's true. I met some awesome patients along the way. I mean, you're in their most intimate setting, is in their home, and you really get to know people. And I lost a lot of patients. It was very hard, but worth it.
See, I know, and I never would have thought about losing, patients either. And that's when you have that connection with them in their, like you said, their most private places. That's hard.
It was cool. I loved it.
So how long did you do that for?
That was about 1.5 years.
Okay.
And where am I at in my timeline? So after that, I saw and it was actually someone who I had worked with before at Creighton with Dr. Sudan.
Okay.
She was working in the weight management clinic for Allegiant Health at the time. And she said, hey, we have a job coming open because another dietitian was leaving. She's like, hey, you should apply for this. I'm like, awesome. I love my friend Jill. I'd love to work with her every day again because it was so much fun. And I applied for that job and got it. It was a coordinator position for their weight management program.
Okay.
So I get there and I find that their weight management program it's health management resources. It's called HMR. And it's a very structured program that basically
they have the criteria already set out.
Okay. And the patients buy their food and their shakes and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
They also had a bariatric surgery practice in the same office as well.
Oh.
So it was kind of cool to be able to see a lot of that. My role was a coordinator, so I didn't really have any authority to do anything. I didn't have I had management responsibilities, but no ability to hold anybody accountable.
Okay.
And so that time I was very much expected to be a supervisor and direct. And if people didn't listen, then it was up to me to get it done.
So not doing a lot of dietitian stuff, more
and
management.
I had eventually figured out that they just really wanted to hire a dietitian to say they had one.
Okay.
In marketing.
Okay.
And we
have a dietitian on staff. Woo.
Yeah. I was an office manager for the most part.
Really?
I would run credit cards and do cash handling and that kind of thing. So I really tried. I really tried.
You gave it
This
your
is my
all.
job. This is what I want to do. And, my supervisor, her response to me when I would go to her with employee issues or concerns would say, well, you just take care of it. They're not doing their job, then you just do it. So that really soured me on the job anyway.
Sure. It's understandable.
So my very last, and going back to my Lincare, it's so cool how many of my jobs have come from networking and how important it is.
From other people that you know or met along the way.
My very last presentation with Lincare was with the clinical nutrition manager for Allegiant. And so I had to tell her, well, I'm leaving Lincare, but I'm actually going to be here at Emmanuel. I'm joining the system. And she looked at me and she said, I'm creating a position. And I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm creating a position.
This stuff is you're just drawn to it.
I'm just a magnet for this kind of punishment, I think. But I thought, oh, this is cool because this is very clinical. Her job she was the manager for the dietitians at 4 hospitals in Omaha. And so she was kind of a system person. And then I was really to be kind of her second in command.
Okay.
That was what this job was, to help her deal with the high-level management stuff. And then I would do more of the day-to-day.
With the other dietitians.
Yes.
Okay.
Chart audits, schedule, that kind of stuff. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. I want to give that a whirl. I want to get back into the clinical world and let's see what happens.
You're still not in Jacksonville, Florida, though.
Still not in Jacksonville, and I had pretty much given up that dream.
You gave up on that.
By that point. And so I started in, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the year. I think it was 2010. And I was still part of the same company, so I just transitioned into a different role in 2010. It would have been probably March. 3 months later, Jackie, the lady who hired me, gave her notice.
Really?
Because she was transitioning over to a role in IT. She had a very strong IT background.
Okay.
Informatics, and she's cool. And
is she a dietitian?
She is a dietitian.
And she has
she
very
is to this
interesting.
day my mentor.
Awesome.
She and I are thick as thieves. She's
really
like my older sister. She's awesome.
That's great.
So she left, and we still kept in touch, and I relied on her for a lot of the IT questions that I had, because that was kind of now my responsibility that she was gone.
So you still maintain that kind of assistant position while they were looking to replace her, or
Yes.
you replaced her?
I didn't want to replace her.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking, I can't do that job. No way. No way, no way. And so my boss, the person who became my boss, worked on me for about 6 weeks. It's like, just take it. You need to take this job. You'd be great at it. You need to take it. Mm-hmm. You get more money. So I took it.
You did. Of course you did.
And boy, did I not know what I was getting myself into. No, but it was awesome.
Which is why Jackie is still your mentor.
Yes, she's still my mentor, because I hung on to her for dear life. And, I'm thinking, here I am. I wasn't even, was I 30 yet? I think I was just 30. Just turned 30.
I like how you say just 30. That's beautiful. I like that. It's awesome.
And here I am. The clinical nutrition managers that I knew of, around the area were all women well into their careers. And here I am, just some dumb kid that hasn't really been practicing a bunch of clinical. I've done a lot of different weird things. I'm in charge of clinical dietitians who have been here since before the year I was born. So
it's a little intimidating.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that job just became a ride. So I left that job just this year.
Okay, so you're pretty new to your current position.
I've been here for 2 months.
Okay.
So in that time, the 6 years that I was the clinical nutrition manager,
which was your longest
yes,
job. That's the longest
yes.
that you spent in a job.
I really feel like I packed about 15 years into 6 years because of all of the changes that happened and things that went on. But so I became the clinical nutrition manager, and I set out to hire the person to replace me in my assistant job. And I hired a dietitian who, we were basically dietitian sisters. Like, she did a bariatric program about the same time out in California.
Oh.
And the same
Wow.
thing, parallel lives.
Really?
Just parallel careers. Just weird and uncanny. So that's why I believe there are no accidents.
No.
And her birthday is exactly 7 days before mine. I mean, we're just...
Even like the same...
Yeah, we're twinsies. It's weird.
Twinsies.
It's weird. But she is... I mean, she was the best hire that I have ever made to this day, because she complemented, the areas that I wasn't so good in. And we were both kind of learning how to be managers together. So it really...
That's nice. You guys are a good team.
Very good team. Best team. I mean, best working relationship. So we set out to standardize everything at all of the hospitals around the city. And so we got that done. And then the announcement came that Allegiant was buying Creighton, and that we were merging. And so we went through and did all of that. And I had kind of assumed the computer IT role that Jackie had left at that point. So really a lot of the day-to-day stuff was left to Beth. I mean, she took care of a lot of the clinical stuff, and I was kind of on the computer side. And so then from there, CHI made the announcement that Allegiant made the announcement that they were going to be 100% owned by CHI. They were always a 49-51 venture.
Oh, okay.
So then all of that change happened kind of at the same time as Creighton. And then the next change that happened was that we were going live with a new electronic medical record. So then that was kind of on my plate to help design that too. And then the next change that happened was CHI Nebraska came together, and that's 11 hospitals. So,
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it just was kind of a snowball rolling downhill into a boulder that just...
You were not expecting when you
And
took that role.
no, I couldn't stop it. And so...
How many dietitians were you kind of over then?
45.
45 dietitians.
45, and they had decided to centralize a diet office to take patient orders by phone. So I was in charge of that design and implementation, and that's why I say I feel like I put 15 years into sales.
Oh my God.
Because
you got like food service management, you got IT.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So the position that I held when I left was actually just a position that was over the centralized call center and IT. So Beth had been promoted to be the clinical nutrition manager for the system because I made that choice.
You were like, nope,
I couldn't do all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my boss to agree. We're just going to separate them out. And
that makes sense. That was probably way too much for one person to...
And it's still too much for one person for 11 hospitals. But, I told... The reason I took that IT job was really because I was the only one who knew how to do it.
Remotely do it.
And I couldn't teach anyone. I wasn't in a position to teach anyone how to do it.
For time purposes?
Right.
Sure.
And so I kind of took it out of guilt. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And I knew Beth would do a really good job. And then I felt comfortable putting her in that position because she and I grew up together in management.
Sure, yeah.
And she's still doing awesome to this day.
I say she's still in that role.
Yep.
Well, good.
She and I talk very frequently, almost every day. And, we can bounce things off each other now. So I had been struggling for a long time with that job.
How long did you do just the IT?
Just 5 months.
5 months.
Yeah, it was very short. And I would still be there to this day. In that time last year, I got married. It's almost been a year since I've been married.
Oh my goodness.
To my husband, and we live an hour and a half away from here, but I come in to Omaha and stay during the week, and then I go home on the weekends.
Oh my gosh.
We're making it work.
You are, well,
it's awesome.
If anybody can, I think you definitely would.
And, hearing me say all of this stuff out loud,
Is it kind of overwhelming?
What?
I've done all this?
Yeah. And, seeing how my career has really played out has been awesome. So I found this position that I'm currently in here at Methodist. It's exactly the same position that it's pretty much just redoing everything I did for 10 hospitals, but only doing it for 3.
Oh, well, you're downscaling.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a good move for me to make. I came in and interviewed, and the starting pay for the position that they posted on the website, I'm like, I'll just interview for fun because I can't take that big of a pay cut. And what impressed me about this organization is that they offered me the job, and they asked me, what would the minimum I could take was, and it was outside of the pay grade for this. The person who's my boss today went back to HR and got them to change the pay grade, and I was like, wow, I'm really impressed.
They really wanted you.
If an organization is willing to do that to get an employee, like, I want to work for them.
Absolutely.
I want to work for them.
But you've also given yourself a name and reputation. You put the work in.
I don't know about that.
You don't think so? I would say definitely. You've obviously put the work in.
I did put the work in, and this is a whole new venture. I think they're probably needing a little bit more help than CHI did at the time, but we'll get there. We always do.
That's awesome. Well,
I always do.
You're going to get there, which is good that you have that confidence.
I'm stubborn. I think that's...
Well, and you're inquisitive. Like you said from the beginning, in the beginning of our conversation, you want to know more, you want answers, you want things to have a tangible outcome, and you're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
If someone else isn't, you are.
If I can't do it, then I don't think it can be done. I will find a way to do it.
I love that.
We'll find
That's very inspirational.
Sounds really conceited.
No, it does. I think that it's good to show confidence because I think as dietitians, we don't on a lot of occasions. We just kind of go with the flow. And I think it's very important to show dietitians that, you can do anything that comes your way. And you're a perfect example. You've had tons of different hats in your roles and your professional life. So don't be scared because you're going to get there.
And it's awesome. And I think the other thing I learned during this venture is don't be afraid to ask for the salary that you want, because it would have been very easy for me to say, oh, well, it would be so much better there. And I was at the point where I would have taken anything. I would have just said, okay. And don't be afraid to put a number on what you're worth, because you're worth that and more.
Absolutely. And again, we're not proactive.
Right.
You're right, 100%.
Yeah.
And we are worth it.
Absolutely.
And it's good to know, and it's good to hear a story of someone that someone does appreciate and know that they're worth it and get that money in return.
Yeah.
And money isn't everything sometimes,
No.
but it is important to know that, we can be valued just like a physician or a speech therapist or a physical therapist.
Absolutely.
That our role is very important.
And to have the level of support that I have here, I don't feel like I've had that support. And I don't know. Maybe it's that I have had the support and I just wasn't able to verbalize the reason why I need more support or be confident in speaking to it. Or if it's that I think it's probably a combination of the two.
Yeah, probably.
I wasn't able to communicate my needs effectively. And having been on the other side, having been on the management side, it's a whole different world. So now I know how to speak to my manager for what I want. I know
what you want.
I know exactly how to present it and how to...
That it makes sense.
Right, right. And I wish I would have known more about that as a young dietitian, but...
You're still a young dietitian.
There's a reason for everything. So,
There is.
after that 6-year stint, I don't feel so young, but...
You said you packed 15. Well, you don't look like it aged you 15 years.
Bless
So
your heart.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
The miracle of hair color.
And face
And
face
Rodan and
cream.
Fields.
Hey, we all need it. Well, I am so glad you shared your
Thank you, yes.
path and your
Happy to.
story and your passion. Obviously, you're living out your passion, and I love that. And it's awesome knowing you from days at Creighton and now where you're at. It's very inspirational. So I appreciate that. But I have some fun questions to end our conversation with. So, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food is probably something in the Indian food category.
Oh, really?
I love Indian food, just because.
That's your thing.
And I think it's because I, in the last probably 5 or 6 years, only found out that I have celiac disease. And there are so many options in Indian food that are gluten-free just naturally.
Never would have thought of that.
Yeah. So I like probably, gosh, I try something different every time, but it's called aloo matar. It's a mixture of peas and potatoes and kind of a tomatoey sauce.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. My sister bought me an Indian food cookbook for my birthday.
Did she?
And it is about 500 pages.
Oh my gosh.
But it gives a lot of history behind
how they created it.
And behind why they use the foods they do and the spices that they do.
Huh.
And it's amazing.
Do you cook a lot at home?
I do. And I cook a dish called butter chicken that I have even gotten my husband, meat and potatoes man,
I would say, is the hubby like in the Indian food?
And
yeah.
As long as I call it something different. And
so that's why you call it butter chicken.
Butter chicken.
That would be a total.
The 10-year-old and the 13-year-old actually ate it too.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
the family likes
And
it.
they did not know, that they still do not know to this day, that it was Indian food.
Well, and you have another connection to celiac in that you do have to cook differently.
Yeah.
And it's good to bring everybody else on board.
And they don't know the difference, to be honest.
No, probably not.
They started at first asking me, is this gluten-free? Then I don't want it.
You're like, no.
Now they eat it. They're right along with me.
That's
and
good.
They like it.
That's good. You're influencing them at home, too.
Yes.
What's your least favorite? You can't say wheat.
Oh,
What's your least favorite food?
I do like wheat. Actually, I like barley the best.
Barley is
beer.
your favorite.
I can't have beer.
You can't have beer. Well, there's gluten-free beer now.
It's terrible.
Is it not good?
It's terrible. A good Bud Light with tomato juice in the summer. I would give anything for that.
I remember your love for Bud Light just a little bit.
Yes. Yes. But no, my least favorite food, oh gosh, and I hate to say it now because I can't eat raw tomatoes. Like I just can't sit and eat them. Mm-hmm. I've gotten better, but man, you have given me anything processed, salsa, ketchup, chili, any kind of processed tomato I love. And so I think it's just God telling me I need more lycopene.
It could be. Lycopene is a sunscreen
Yes.
from the inside out.
Absolutely. I love lycopene.
I have the same thing with corn, so don't feel bad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Perfect.
What's your favorite drink?
alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
You can either one. You'd say one of each if you like.
Well, I've kind of become a wine snob, actually, due to my mentor, Jackie.
Okay.
She has kind of introduced
Something
me
that you share together.
to the wine world.
That's awesome.
We call it wine time, like pun intended. And I like both reds and whites.
Good.
It just kind of depends on the mood I'm in. I usually find I drink reds when it's cold out.
Yes. And white when it's
whites in the summer.
warm.
They had a very good selection of rosés this year too, so I like the rosés. And people think when I say that I'm talking about like pink Moscato or white Zin.
Yes.
No.
There actually is a whole another world of rosé.
Rosé, yes, and they are very good. And they're usually a mixture of like a Pinot Noir and
I love Pinot
maybe
Noir.
Sauvignon Blanc or something, and they're just different mixtures.
So you're getting adventurous with that. That's fun. I
love
like
it.
that.
I love it. And then I am a confessed Coke Zero addict, so that is my
okay.
non-alcoholic drink of choice. I'm doing better. Since I've worked here, I just do water.
Hey, that's good. So just kind of soda in the evenings, weekends, drives back to Columbus.
And if I need to mix, I do like Tito's vodka too.
Okay.
So if I need to
I
mix
do too.
something with that, it's my favorite.
I love Tito's.
If you're in town here, Bricks has it $26.99 for a 175, but that's way out west.
It is out west, but I still travel out there on occasion.
They might have one down here on 30th and
Oh yeah, there
Dodge.
is one down on Dodge. What's your least favorite drink?
My least favorite drink is milk.
Milk.
I'm lactose intolerant, so
Yeah, well that would go with the celiac a little bit.
But I did find Fairlife milk. That is my new favorite. So.
Does it work for you?
Yes.
I love Fairlife
and
milk.
it's delicious.
And it's a lot more protein, which is very good for you.
Yes, that's my new favorite.
What's your favorite smell?
Oh gosh, probably. And it's gonna sound so weird and dorky, and I apologize in advance. But
No.
waking up in the morning and rolling over and cuddling with my husband,
Aw.
and just the smell of his hair, and I just, you know how people have their own smells.
Oh, yeah,
I
definitely.
just love his smell.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, he'll have to definitely listen to this and blush at the end. What's your least favorite smell?
Oh gosh, probably anything that has been sitting in my fridge that I have to clean out.
Does that happen often?
Rancid? No. We live outside of town, so we have our own septic system.
Oh, gotcha.
And so I don't pour any of the grease down the drain, and I keep it in like an old
Container.
maybe a Prego jar or something.
Yeah.
And we must have let one sit a little bit too long.
Oopsie.
And it went rancid. That was terrible.
We did that where I was from too. We didn't put it down in our
That was terrible.
sinks. Yeah. What's your guilty pleasure when it comes to food?
Oh my goodness. There are so many.
We are dietitians, so we do have a list, I'm sure.
So many. I mean, again, I could say Indian food, but that would be kind of
You really like
redundant.
Indian
I
food,
do
though.
love it.
That's
probably,
okay.
Probably creme brulee.
Creme brulee.
There is a chef here that is from France, and he worked at the French Cafe downtown when it was open, and he does all of our desserts. And
Really?
his creme brulee is
Phenomenal.
to die for.
Now, can you eat creme brulee
Yes.
then? Yes.
I can.
Good. Well, good.
And even if I couldn't, I probably
You
still would.
would. You'd weather the storm.
Yes, I would. Creme brulee.
Well, thanks so much today for talking
Thank
with
you.
me. It's always interesting listening to dietitian stories, and I love dietitians that I have worked with in the past, and your story is amazing, and I can't wait to see where you go in the future.
Thank you. Likewise.
It was so wonderful to reconnect with Kristyn and hear her story again. This is what is so great about our profession. Our journeys, like Kristyn's, are so unique. By listening to her story, it's a reminder of how you never know what's going to happen in your career. It's also about what you're looking for in your career. And make sure to check out my new blog each Wednesday. Let me know what you think by heading over to annelizabethrd.com, where you can also buy my Labor of Love, my book, I'm a Registered Dietitian, Now What? And connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at annelizabethrd. As always, remember to be great, find the joy in each day, and start a conversation that truly matters.